Hi, everybody. And it's a little bit strange here right now because some people are actually in a Zoom session. I don't know if they're finished with their class. So they're here in one respect, but are you guys back now? Are your mics active here in Kitely? I don't know if they're still in their Zoom session. So I will be giving kind of a briefing in a moment, but I'm waiting for a few more people. And
Sarah says they're finishing now in Zoom. Be right
okay.
back. Do you want me to go send people from the arrival point?
If you don't mind, because others will still be coming there.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool.
It's Dr. How do I pronounce your last name? Beatrice or Beatrice? I was there on your Zoom thing, but I don't know if you could hear me. I was not wanting to have conflicting mics. I have to say, you guys are great. You cut in really well. You understood instant messaging. These are things that many of us don't even know how to use still. So
this is our Emerging Learning Technologies graduate class, and so they've been practicing all semester. They're pretty good.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to come and do a presentation. So I'm going to chat a little bit, so there'll be some voices. I wasn't chatting before just because I didn't want to. I didn't know if it was going to conflict with mics. But we've got people flying in, coming in right now. Some of our speakers are here, and I want to continue to invite you and your class. We can have up to 80 people here at one time. And this island is often not being used. So I'd like to talk to you, Tony, just about times if you ever want to use this yourself with your classes. So we can certainly share.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll chat a few more moments. I think, too, some of the people who've come in through me, and Farah, put your mic off if you're not talking. And if you figure the mic toggle, there's a mic at the bottom, and to the upper little right corner of it, there's a space. If you put a check there, then you can toggle it on and off. And when the presenters are presenting, you can also type in the chat. I try to capture the chat. I don't always manage. And I'm trying to tape this too for others that come. And sometimes people come later, so I try to have a chat. So I think everyone's somewhat comfortable. I'd like to, Dr. Beatrice, do you think you have a moment to have your students just say hello and maybe say their interest? And we figure on the presentation itself starting a little in about 10 minutes. So would that make sense?
Sarah, do you want to go ahead? They may be working out the mic a little bit. I think you have to click and hold on the mic or something.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. You either click and hold or you hold the chat. I'll keep on putting the directions in the chat because once you figure out the mics are always the most complicated thing. I'm going to keep typing in the directions. At the bottom, too, there's the text chat, and you can use that. And if somebody stands on your head, it's only they're doing that to teleport in. So they'll walk away. Farah has some issues with her computer, so she's not really trying to step on your head, but she is. So don't worry about it. There. And yeah, you toggle it on and off. And Tony, I'll let you call to your class. They can say hello, and then I'll identify some of the other people, and they can say hello. And
Sarah can start.
Okay.
All right. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm here at Potsdam. I actually don't live in Potsdam, though. I am graduating this semester, and I'm really excited to be here.
And we're glad to have you. And Farah, put off your mic You're giving us some interference there. Yeah, keep. I don't think I have the option of turning off someone's mic, so we'll get the feedback loop. Okay, and I'll turn my mic off.
Jackie, are you in the front? Do you think you can introduce yourself a little bit? She might be working on the mic. Then I'll turn over to Leanne then. Leanne, you're right behind me.
Yep, I'm Leanne. I also go to City Potsdam. Yeah.
All right, Mike, check on Cashlyn. By the way, Cashlyn would definitely appreciate it if anybody could tell her how to get her body back.
Oh, she got changing clothes. That's another thing. If you come into the class, or I have lots of materials on how you can get more outfits, but you basically can go back to the Welcome Center and pick up another outfit. We have a lot of fun with that in the first couple of classes. So I'll either bring you back in sometime. You can change outfits. I could change my outfits momentarily, so you can see it's easy to do. But, you know, we get fussy and we want certain outfits. So don't worry. I can still see your name, Cashlyn. And, you know, you can be the invisible lady. See if you can take the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so I am Cashlyn without a body, and I go to SUNY Potsdam. And I am a full-time middle school art teacher at Salmon River, which is way up close to the Canadian border.
Wow. Must be cold up there if it's Salmon River. So we'll have to get you some clothes.
And if Jackie's there, she can jump in anytime. But otherwise, maybe, Eileen, you could introduce yourself to my students and some of the other people around. I assume these are students or faculty or both?
A bit of everything. So I'll have them go around, introduce themselves. I'm Eileen O'Connor, and I've been using virtual environments for 15 years now, starting with Second Life. Second Life got to be too expensive. We migrated over here. So in the group here, we have some speakers. We have some graduates who are members of the steering committee. So I'll have them go around, say a quick hello, and we do create newsletters and the like. We'd like to invite you to continue coming back. We have a series about every month. We have some type of a presentation during the academic year, so we'll keep you in the loop if you want to join us more. And so what I'll do is I'll call people by name based on where I'm sitting, or standing, I should say, and I'll ask them to say who they are, and we'll catch as many as we can before we start. So I'm going to turn my mic off. Sean Andrews, you want to say who you are, where you come from, and just say hello to this group?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Sean Andrews. I'm an educational technologist in Brooklyn at Bay Ridge Prep. It's K through 12. I graduated of the Mallet program and part of the steering committee for INP. And yeah, just happy to be here.
Thank you. I see Sidearm. I'm just kind of looking at where the names are from here. Sidearm Madonna is sitting in the back too. And you want to take the mic and say something about yourself?
Sure, I would be glad to, Eileen. My name is Sidearm. It's my online avatar. My offline avatar is James. I run a consultancy in online presence. I'm a guest lecturer at the Technological University Dublin in online collaboration and team building. I'm a guest lecturer here at INP and at other places for hybrid technology. I'm very pleased to be here and looking forward to the presentation. Over.
And Sidearm also is a systems engineer and does a lot to help us all in many ways. Now I'm looking to see Ruth, Karen. I see you over there, Karen Forrester.
Dr. O'Connor, you cut out there for a second. I wasn't
Oh,
able to hear you.
sorry, that's me. I messed up my mic. I'm going to try to call others, and let's see if Karen Forrester, can you take the mic and tell everybody who you are?
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Karen Forrester. I'm one of the students still in the Mallet program. I'm pivoting to an instructional design career. Um, uh, Hello? Okay. I taught high school English for 12 years. I'm just observing today.
Yeah, she's joining. We invite friends, students, alums, people who want to come and share how do we move ahead with technologies in our various lives. So, Selby, I see Selby in the back. Selby, I don't know, can you take your mic? I don't know if whether he's mic enabled right now. I'll give him a moment. And if Selby can't take the mic, I'll fill in for who he is. Selby is a retired psychology professor from Texas who actually has a blog with, now it's on 13 million hits. And if he doesn't put the blog into the chat, I will later. And, oh good, here are two more people coming. He chats about all things interesting, new, virtual, and he's got a lot of advice for K-12, for libraries, for all sorts of things. And Robin's, she's sitting on my head, but I'll wait till, see, when we teleport in, that's what can happen. Oh, I think that's Robin and I. Robin, you want to take the mic for a minute and just say who you are? We're just saying hello right now. I don't know, she needs to find her seat first. Well, I'll come back to Ro. I figured if you could stand on my head, you could talk.
I didn't hear you because I had my back turned, I guess. But what would you like me to?
Just introduce yourself. We're just doing a quick hello. Her voice might be going in and out. I'll introduce her. Robin is in library science for SUNY Buffalo, and she brings a whole group of SUNY faculty and instructional designers into all sorts of different places. So we're going to a lot of conferences this month. So Robin's a friend of mine. We've met along the way, and let's see. Oh, Taylor, good to see you. You want to take the mic and say hello?
Okay, yeah, sure. So, my name is Taylor. I'm a part of the Mallet program. This is actually my last semester, so I graduate in June. Right now, I work at Felix Festa Middle School.
And she has also developed her own virtual island in the past, and she has a lot of art talent. So we've got a lot of talent in this room here. Now, we do have our speakers. Farah? Can you turn your mic on and say hello and then toggle it off?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Farhan Ahmed, and I just finished my second semester. I'm in the Mallet program, and I took Dr. O'Connor's class, developing and integrated immersive STEM learning environment and assessing learning in digital environments. And I learned so much from those two classes, and I would like to thank you, Dr. O'Connor, that I have learned so much, and thank you so much. I enjoyed and learned a lot. And I've been teaching anatomy and physiology a couple of colleges. And this summer I'll be teaching microbiology and one anatomy and physiology lecture. Yeah, so I registered for 2 classes in the summer, but I thought it would be too much, too many, overwhelmed with the work and classes. So I just decided to drop 1 class. So I'm just planning to take only 1 class
Well, we'll be glad to have you. And
thank you, and
okay.
thank you so much
Yeah.
for inviting me here. And I'm looking forward to this presentation, and I enjoy a lot. Thank
Okay, great. Yeah, Farah has a lot to contribute to. So we really, cover the content areas. We cover anything from pre-K all the way up to K-12, and you're going to hear at the end of this night, you're going to hear more too about work being done in emergency medical systems. And so we cover quite a range from training to K-12. So I'm glad to see quite a group here. Now, we will be having both Kathleen speak first, so I'll have her introduce herself. Eder and Rudy, you want to just say quick hellos, and then you'll hear more from them in a little bit.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eder Peralta. I'm one of the EMS educators over at Stony Brook Hospital. I work along with Rudy. I'm a flight paramedic, and we conduct most of our education is directed towards pre-hospital care providers.
And you'll be hearing more from Eder in a bit. And Rudy, you want to just say who you are too?
Hi everyone, I'm Rudy, and I'm sitting here next to Eder in Lecture Hall 6 at Stony Brook University. So, we've both been in the Mallet program now for a little while, and we look forward to giving you our presentation soon.
Okay, so I think, is there anybody outside of my range here? Bethany is one of our coordinators. She's coming in. She's on the steering committee. She's coming in from San Diego State University in California. And right now, she's the self-appointed greeter to get everyone over here. So I'll say hello when you see Bethany Winslow. She is also a trooper. She's an instructional designer, and she does all things technology. And she's coming in, and so when she joins us, Bethany and I were at Allspace VR yesterday. Robin has us going to the Rubella conference, so we're in all sorts of conferences together, and hope that maybe you guys can join us eventually. Lucia, I see, just sat down. Lucia, I don't know if she can take the mic. I'll give her a minute and ask her if she can take the mic. Lucia, can you say hello? Or okay, she's having. Lucia, I'll tell you, is coming in from Italy, so she's in kind of a different time zone, and often, yeah, she says she can't hear. Well, asking people to help her with her mic. As you know, mics can generally be the biggest challenge. For whatever reason, they're more complicated than video. So she'll be coming in, and she teaches many different teacher education programs. She's also a linguist. So we're always delighted when she can join us, particularly because for her, this is the middle of the night, or I guess early morning. And so anyway, I will, being a teacher, talk too much. So what I'll do is turn everything over to Kathleen, who I think will be turning the mics. And if I missed anybody, is there anybody else who wants to say a quick hello? And okay, no offense intended if I missed somebody. I may be popping over to look at some emails that came in if anyone's having trouble getting in. But Kathleen has done a wonderful job, and I think she's excited to tell you about it. So I'm going to turn my mic off. Kathleen, turn yours on. She will be turning slides. I will be pushing out through the links to her slides and to Rudy's slides, because she wants you to be able to see them later too. So I'll turn my mic off, and Kathleen, it's all yours.
All right, hello everybody. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can't, I hope you let me know momentarily. I'm hearing typing, so I'm hoping that's a yes. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Kathleen Trapp. I am a second semester Mallet student. So I just finished my second semester at SUNY Empire State College. And I currently teach 6th and 8th grade mathematics at a private school in Dutchess County. So I'm a little bit further south than our Potsdam neighbors upstate. So last semester I wanted to create a project for my 6th grade students, and the first thing that stuck out to me was something with medieval times, because every year in 6th grade we go to medieval times, and because of COVID this year, of course, that is unable to happen. So we can't go on our field trip this year. So I wanted to try to bring some sort of activity or fun project that they can do that incorporated medieval times while also incorporating loads of different technologies. So I titled my project Medieval Geometry, and it combines their social studies curriculum of Eastern Hemisphere. I'm so sorry if you heard that. That was my dog. It incorporates their social studies content of medieval times and Eastern Hemisphere history while tying in some geometry. So my audience, and I'll talk a little bit more about what my project is as we go through the slides, but my audience for my class is my 6th grade class I used, and I have 19 students in the class. In my school, they split the class, so I have a total of 33 students in my homeroom, but for math, I only have 19. This year, we have been hybrid since September, so I have 14 students who alternate coming into the building every day, and then I have 5 fully remote students, so they join us on Zoom every day, while the other group alternates. Group A is in one day, Group B is in the other day, and so on and so forth. So with my project, students are going to gain a better understanding of surface area and nets while connecting both mathematics and their social studies curriculum. So the end goal of the culminating activity is that students are going to create a 3D model of a given net of a castle, and this will connect their understanding of surface area and how a net and surface area correspond to the real world or in a 3D model in this aspect. So I more so created more of like a unit or I guess you'd say a unit plan. So for the first week here, that's when they're going to be taking their pretest. I created a pretest through Google Forms, and I have some data that I'm going to share with you a little bit later. But that's where they're just learning the area formulas, and they're using different methods to solve area, so decomposition and composition. Week 2 is where I want to introduce the topic of a net, what a net is used for, and just finding the surface area of different nets in a 2D, paper and pencil sort of way. Week 3, that's where we're going to connect to the real world. So in week 3, my students would go on some different virtual tours, and we would use both Nearpod and Google Expeditions, where they'd go and get to visit medieval castles in Europe through their devices and kind of see what they look like and analyze the different shapes that make up the castle and try to think about what their nets would look like if we were to unfold the castle. Week 4 is where I would introduce the culminating project. I'd give them their rubrics, their materials, and what I'm expecting from them. Week 5 is where they would just basically be building their castle, and the program that I'm using for that would be Minecraft. And then week 6 is where they finalize each other's, and I wanted to have some sort of peer review. So I chose Minecraft for their 3D platform to create their model because I thought it was very easy to learn, and a lot of my students actually play Minecraft on their own time, so it's something that they already are familiar with, and I know multiple students across grade levels have played Minecraft and continue to play Minecraft today. So I thought it was an easy tool to use. I myself had never used Minecraft before this, so it's definitely something that I had to learn, but again, it was so easy to learn, so it could actually be really used across tons of different grade levels. I mean, I can see students as far down as like 3rd grade using Minecraft, as well as even high schoolers. I mean, I know my brother is in high school, and I know he plays Minecraft every once in a while, so it could definitely be used across different grade levels. For my project, the 2 standards that I focused on are 6th grade mathematics standards from Engage New York, following the Common Core standards, and they just talk about real-world and mathematical problems involving area, surface area, and volume. So they're finding the areas of triangles, quadrilaterals, polygons, rectangles, squares, and then they're connecting that to a real-world mathematical connection, and then also representing the 3D figures and how that relates to a net and how a net folds into a 3D object through a final project. So the environment that I wanted to create is obviously the virtual environment with Minecraft. It's going to be, so I put collaborative here. Now for the original project that I created, I had them doing it independently, but as I was completing it, I realized that Minecraft, you can go into other people's worlds. or you can create your own world and then people can come see yours. So this project could be modified to be more collaborative and have multiple students working on one castle at a time, or students, that's where my peer view would come in, where students can go and visit each other's castles. It's problem-based. They'd have to figure out how to work the system with a little bit of guidance, of course, in how to create this 3D shape just given a two-dimensional net. Building on their 21st century skills, their technology skills, their problem-solving skills, creativity. I'm allowing them to have freedom to decorate their castle however they want, as long as the measurements are okay. So they also have that a little bit of freedom as well. Bloom's taxonomy, scaffolding on top of each other throughout the whole unit, and then the big thing for my project was Piaget's cognitive development theory. So in 6th grade, students are in the concrete operational stage, which makes concepts such as turning a net into a 3D shape is more abstract. So it can be very difficult for students to understand that because they're not there yet. They're not in that developmental stage yet. So I thought that connecting this with a 3D model such as Minecraft, or connecting it with some sort of technology, would help build their abstract way of thinking. So the different technologies, here are all my different technologies that I used. The first one I used is Nearpod. I use Nearpod in my everyday. I actually gave my students a Nearpod today. I love Nearpod. If you're a teacher and you've never heard of Nearpod, definitely do your research because I love Nearpod. Nearpod can connect to yes, Sean. Nearpod can connect to Google Slides now, which they didn't when I first used Nearpod, so it's so much more user-friendly now. But Nearpod has different games that you can incorporate. So in this project, I use Nearpod for building their skills on area, because it has a few different games that students can play to practice the area of different shapes and explore how to find area. And then it also has a virtual tour option, so they can go and visit different places, and it has sways embedded as well. I mean, Nearpod is just fabulous, but I'll stop talking about Nearpod. So Google Expeditions is the other tool that I used this last semester, I should say. Google Expeditions I had never used before, but I actually found that they have some really great tools as well. Google Expeditions can only be used on a mobile device or an iPad, I believe. So you can't actually get that on your laptops or Chromebooks. So if your students have Chromebooks, that would be a little bit more difficult. But Google Expeditions has some great virtual tours. And the one thing I really liked about Google Expeditions that I found this semester was that they have virtual tours, of course, and you see the virtual tours in real time. Yes, Dr. O'Connor mentioned that they are phasing that out, but they'll keep arts and culture, unfortunately, yes. But the one thing I did like was that they'll show the castles in real time, but there was one that I found that they actually had people dressed up like they were in the medieval era, which I thought was so cool that you can actually see people what they would actually look like and what they would be wearing during that time, making it a little bit more connecting to their content. So Google Forms is what I used for their pretest, and then I use Google Classroom every day. So that's what we're using to give them out materials and assessments and submitting their progress throughout their project. I created a few YouTube tutorials on how to use Google Expeditions. Those are all on my Google Sites page. I can send that link out to everybody in the chat once I'm done if you'd like. And then, of course, Minecraft is where their culminating activities, where they're actually designing and building their three-dimensional castle. So a little bit more about the activities. Nearpod, like I said, they're using that to practice area skills and view different medieval castles. Google Expeditions, they're using this to go on a tour. And then Minecraft is where they're constructing their project, and it's going to be the virtual castle. So my project expectations for my students, I would want them to learn and build and navigate through Minecraft, solve for surface area of a castle, design and create their own castle while following the given measurements. So I really did try to give the students freedom in terms of what their castles can look like. That way it's a little bit more engaging for them, and they can change colors, and I'll talk more about that later. But okay, so on task behavior. So my assessments that I have built in, I have the teacher creative rubric. This rubric here is for their final project for their castle. So how would I assess? That's how I would assess their castles and give them a final grade. They also have a peer review where they'll get to go and leave comments for each other and look at each other's castles. and leave some positive feedback. I'll be doing some classroom observation and Zoom observation, of course, for those of them that are on Zoom. And then the pre-test I did on Google Forms. So this is some snippets of the pre-test on the left here. Like I said, it was just very straightforward Google Forms. I think it was about 4 or 5 questions, maybe 5 or 6 questions, I think. And it assessed them a little bit on area, different types of shapes, and corresponding nets and surface area as well. So kind of like the whole unit's topics were assessed on there. And then for the peer review on the right there, it's just very straightforward, just who are you visiting, an interesting fact that you saw, one thing that you think could be improved, and then what your favorite thing, so students have something that they can look at to say for a little bit of constructive criticism, but of course also that positive response as well. So the data, I was able to complete the pilot lesson, actually a few of the lessons that I created in my units. But unfortunately this year, because of COVID and everything, and doing the project in the middle of the year, I wasn't able to get my school to buy the Minecraft Education Edition. So the Minecraft Education Edition is for educators, and it gives you, there is a free trial that you can do, and you can do it, and it gives you like 10 logins, I think, and it gives you all of the materials that you can find in Minecraft. So all of the different blocks, all of the different elements, they have, they have different like animals that are there. So it gives you everything. You don't have to, I know in the actual game, I believe you have to go find some things. That's not the case in the Education Edition. So I wasn't able to do the actual final project with my students this year, but I'm really hoping to try to implement it next year. But I was able to do my pilot lesson and a couple other activities that I had built in. So for my pilot lesson, they did the pre-test, and I introduced the topics of area. And based on the pretest, I found that 10 out of the 19 students were able to find the area of a rectangle, which is great because that's a topic that they learn in 5th grade. So it's great that they retain that, especially since last year was the start of COVID. But only 2 out of the 19 students were able to find the area of the triangle. And I found that the common mistake that they made was that they forgot to divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2, which is a very common mistake within 6th grade, but that just helps me to understand where they need more help in and need more support in. So how I would want to expand my project. My idea for expanding my project would be to create some sort of professional development on how to incorporate and use virtual environments such as Minecraft into the classroom. Like I said before, Minecraft is very easy to learn, and I know multiple different people and adults even and students can use it across different grade levels. So like I said 3rd grade earlier. Originally, I think even 1st grade could use it, depending on how well you know your students and how well the students know technology. Like I said, I work in a private school, so many of my students have access, are fortunate enough to have access to technology in their home lives. So many of them are extremely tech savvy. So I think 1st grade to high school level, and it could really be centered around math, science, or even social studies. And for social studies, you can build your own environments to match what you're teaching, right? So like I have them building a castle that they can use and go to. Science you can explore. I know Minecraft has different capabilities on mixing elements and creating things. That was one of the things that I found out when I was playing it. And then, of course, high school mathematics, or even younger mathematics. Another thought that I had was that students could use the blocks almost as like base 10 blocks, and they can build different things and add and subtract that way. So here I have just some snippets of the progress that I had when I was building my castle. So I built a model castle for the students, something that they can look at and base their castles off of. Originally, I had the measurements to be quite big. I think next time if I were to do it over, like if I were to do it next year, which I hope to do, I would definitely make the measurements a lot smaller because the castle doesn't need to be that tall. But this is where I started. When I started, like I said, I had never used Minecraft before, so it was a little bit of a learning curve. But this is, I just kind of put the base down, this was pretty much how tall it was. Like I said, I think it's a little too tall because the door to the top there's quite a big gap there. So I would definitely do it a little bit shorter next time. But what I did was I created a net, and that is also on my website. And like I said, I can send that out to everybody. Where I did the net on like a graph paper, and each of the blocks was 1 unit. So each of the blocks was 1 unit on the graph paper would equal 1 block on Minecraft. So it was kind of easy conversions. And then for their measurements, when they're actually finding the surface area and doing those calculations, we can convert 1 block equals 1 foot, and then they have like a measurement at they're done, like 300 square feet or whatever it is. So I thought that was just an easier way to have conversions. You can see here that I use 2 different types of materials. The students would have the freedom to use whatever kind of materials they have access to. Here's an overview. So I also, in my net, I had different rooms set up for them that I thought would be a little bit more engaging, make it more realistic, where they would have like a main living area, a library, a dining hall, a workshop, living quarters, and 4 different towers on the corners. And I put all the different tools and stuff, the different props, I guess you would say, in there to try to spark some creativity. So this is just one clip. This is the one I was very proud of, my library, with some books and things like that. But there was a lot of things you can do on Minecraft. So, I mean, and like I said, I think this project could definitely be used across different grade levels and across different content areas. Like I said, I unfortunately wasn't able to implement the Minecraft aspect of it this year, but I'm really hoping for next year that we will be able to implement it with my 6th grade class. So I'm very excited for that next year. But that is it. That's all I have for today. So, actually, I have one more slide. This is a link to my website. I'm not sure if this is going to be clickable for everybody. No, I clicked the slide. I don't know if that's clickable for everybody, but I can put the link into the chat, so if anybody wants to go and explore that, you're more than welcome to. But thank you all for listening. It was an absolute pleasure getting up to, I guess, sitting to present to everybody. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. But that's all I got. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we do have a couple of moments here for any questions. Does anyone want to take the mic or type a question in the chat? And Kathleen, I've pushed her presentation out a few times, and I do think at the end of her presentation, she has an active link to her website. As you can see, she's been very thorough. She has a wonderful website with resources, so I'm hoping you can see that. But questions?
Just a comment, sidearm here. I really am intrigued by your multiple use of different Google elements, as well as the Nearpod and the Minecraft. A wonderful example of blending technologies for your purpose. Over.
Thank you so much.
I have a question. I guess could you describe a little bit further about how Nearpod is in use in your project here? I'm also very thrilled to see the work that you've done, and it looks to be a very authentic way for the students to be learning the skills that you're trying to do. So thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So I have Nearpod in the beginning portions of my lesson where they're building their skills on finding area. So Nearpod has a great game that you can create when you go into Nearpod, and I actually have it, I think, on my website where you can actually play the Nearpod that I created. So on the Nearpod it pulls up this little, there's an option for practice, and then there's also an option for game. So the practice one where they can just click different boxes and they'll see the math, like the calculations on the side where it says, base times height, and it has the units. So if you color in, 2 boxes by 3 boxes, it does 3 times 2 is 6, and you get your area being 6. And then it has a game option where it'll give you the area, and students have to actually build the shape that matches the area. So it'll say the area of 6 units, and they have to build a 3 by 2 or a 2 by 3 shape on the Nearpod. I also use Nearpod for some virtual tours where they can go, and Nearpod also allows you to go and visit different places, so you can type in, I think I had a couple different castles on there as well. I don't remember exactly which one. I want to say they were in maybe one in Wales, but you can go and see. So my idea for that was just to have students take a look at the castles. We would have a discussion about what shapes they see in the castles, and that could be done right through the Nearpod, which can link. And another note about Nearpod too, it's great because it can link right to Google Classroom. So right now my school is using Google Classroom, so it's an easy way to link it right to your classroom, send it right to your students. And Nearpod also gives you a report of who was there, and you can build in, quiz questions, or I can build in some check for understandings for a short answer questions where they can write their responses. And they also do, there's one other thing too, is a collaborative board, which is almost like a cork board, and you can post different post-its and students can type on the post-its. So for example, if I were to use this for the virtual tours, I would, actually now I'm thinking about it, I would love to add this to it. So thank you for having me explain this. So I would have them post their observations onto the cork board, or onto the collaboration board it's called, and other students in the class can see what they're writing on the board. I can see what they're writing, and you have the option to have their names there or not, which is pretty cool. So those are the two ways that I use Nearpod for this lesson.
Well, and thank you, Kathleen. I think we have time for the one last question from Dr. Beatrice as to whether you've been able to get to the post-test at this point.
So my students actually just took their surface area test last week. So I have not had a chance to look at it yet. I think they took it on Friday. So I have not had a chance to look at that data yet, but as soon as I will pass that information along.
Oh, that would be great. And thank you so much. And I'm, please, Kathleen's been most generous with her work. Please use it, and her email's on there as well. I'm sure she'd like to hear from people who might be doing something similar or have questions. So thank you, Kathleen. And I'd love to spend more time, but we have another presentation coming too. We're sort of looking at the early stages, and then we're going to have two gentlemen from Emergency Medical out at Stony Brook talking about some of their work. Now I'm going to make Kathleen's slides disappear, and Eder and Rudy, if you want to come up and hang out around where Kathleen was, you should be able to turn the slides yourself. If you can't, let me know and I'll turn them. Plus, I forgot to tell two things to the group. There is a little laurel wreath on the bottom of your screen. If you open that, you have some tools that you might like. And let me just move this out of the way. The tools, you can brighten the setting if it's real dark. You also have a tool towards the middle of this that takes snapshots if anyone wants to take a picture of themselves. And of course there are a lot of features for turning around your camera, and I'll invite folks to come back and learn more of those, so you won't have time for all of that. But there is also a feature, let me do it on my computer. If I hold down Alt, and I'm on a PC, if I hold down Alt, my pointer becomes a magnifying glass, and you can focus in on the slides, and you can zoom in and out. So I apologize to Kathleen. I hadn't told you how to do that, because if you want to see a slide closer, you can stay in your seat and use that. And in the past, that would sometimes turn the slides. I think we've overcome that problem. So again, if you want to zoom in on a slide, move your cursor, hold down Alt, you'll get a magnifying glass, and then again, I'm on a PC, so I've got a little scroll wheel. I can zoom in and out, and I think Mac people usually know the equivalents. So if you're on a Mac, I'm afraid I don't have one, so I'm not exactly sure those strokes. But Rudy and Eder are going to take over. I'll let them introduce themselves, and looking forward to what they're going to be telling us. And I will push out their PowerPoints also through the chat.
Kathleen, could you just adjust the slide a little bit on my screen? The right bottom is pushed into the back wall.
Oh, is it fixed for you? It fixed.
Perfect now. All done.
Okay. And Rudy and Eder, I think you know how to do the mics. If you haven't figured the toggle, then you have to keep on holding the mic down.
Okay, everyone, how are you? So, thank you for listening. We'd like to explain to you Project Thea. Yeah.
And Rudy, if you stand close enough, you should be able to turn the slides from the pointers, from the arrows. And if you want, you could tell me and I'll turn the slides.
Okay, all right, here we go. So Project Thea was originally conceived, well, now a couple semesters ago. And over the course of working in the Mallet program, the project has evolved. And it evolved from a particular need. So let's just talk about what that need was. Just next slide. All right, just bear with us as we get the slides in order here. Okay, so what you see here is a flight paramedic. The flight paramedic has just performed a simulation of a rapid sequence intubation. This is the process of basically providing pre-hospital anesthesia. So we sedate the patient, paralyze the patient, provide them an intubation or a breathing tube, and then hook them up to a ventilator. Now that is one procedure among many other processes that take place in the care of some of the critically ill people that we manage. So whether you're in the air medical environment or EMS in the ground or working in ER or an OR, this is a procedure that it's not routinely used, but it's a high acuity and low occurrence procedure, which means you really need to be you need to be well practiced, well versed, and well educated in how to do it. That, of course, though, leads to human factor-based errors. It's very easy, especially when you're stressed and have cognitive overload occurring, to miss a step in the procedure. And the problem with that is it can cause great harm. So, I'm sorry, I think I'm just hitting my slides a little too much here. Okay, so let's just talk about this. In Rhode Island, about 2018, there was a retrospective study on pre-hospital intubations. And that wasn't really originally what they were aiming to look at. They were really examining cardiac arrest intubations, and what they found, inadvertently, is that in 12 cases, patients were brought to the hospital with the breathing tube inserted into the esophagus, which basically is, it's almost like a homicide. You can't breathe if your breathing tube is going to your belly. And this was a very disturbing find. They really didn't know quite what to do about it, but they recognized that intubation tubes in the pre-hospital environment were problematic and have since become pretty controversial.
What?
Rudy, if you like, I could change the slides for you.
Yeah, this one is the same slide.
Okay.
So on this, the reason why, one of the reasons why this project kind of happened was because of the story of Drew. So it's just kind of like a quick story. It was a young kid who happened to have a accident. He was happened to be on a skateboard, fell, injured his head. The patient was, we went to a hospital where they did some medical interventions, and later on he needed to be transferred to another facility where they were able to take care of his injuries, and also because of his age. What happened was that they put him in the ambulance, and en route to the other hospital, the people who were taking care of him, the providers, end up making too many mistakes when it came down to the airway. The patient wasn't intubated correctly. He was paralyzed but not sedated. So there were a lot of issues with the intubation, which led to his death. So the family set up a foundation where their whole goal is to raise awareness of airway management for the healthcare providers and to improve the care that's being provided to patients out there. So Project Thea is our hope is to help fix this issue. And a lot of the issues with airway management happen to be because of cognitive overload, just because there's so many things that we need to remember, so many different things that we need to do, that it overwhelms the providers while they're providing these life-saving skills.
So what is Project Thea? Basically, there are several components to what we're proposing. First and foremost, this is all about patient safety, and that's an important aspect. It's one of the reasons why, as we apply for grant funding, we think that we will be successful, because patient safety is really preeminent in a lot of medical research. What we're developing is something called the Thea system. That's the physical device component. And then in conjunction with that, once that's complete, we're going to have a research study to test its effectiveness. Now, we're going to do this originally with people who are well-trained and highly qualified in the rapid sequence intubation procedure, typically flight paramedics who do this often, or more often really than most other people. If we're able to have results from that study to validate the use of the device, we'll then explore, other areas, whether it's pre-hospital, emergency rooms, ORs, or whatnot. But so really, again, it's a two-component process. One is device development, the other is the associated research. So how did this all begin? The original concept was very simple. The goal was just to make a rapid sequence intubation checklist so that providers could read it or have it read to them while they were providing this procedure. And it was simple to do. We were able to take the merge cube that you see here just as a basic QR code type device, and through that, using any other portable electronic like a phone or an iPad, you'd be able to see an augmented reality version of the checklist. And it was great, it worked well, but it was very static, and it became clear that nobody's going to bring this cube with them, and it proved the concept that you could make an AR checklist, but it wasn't enough to really have any kind of operational meaning. Okay, so you can see in the picture, this is actually a video. Clearly here it's not, but you get the idea that you can see the checklist very easy. I'm able to rotate that cube around, and you can see all the words all the way around. So this was the kind of humble beginning of where we started, but obviously from here we've evolved.
So the concept has evolved to using or creating an AR checklist using glasses such as like the Microsoft, the HoloLens. One of the issues with this device is mainly it's the cost. So it clearly can do what we want it to do. We have the people that are working towards this goal. But one of the things that we have encountered was the issue is the cost of the glasses. But out of all the glasses out there, I feel that these, or at least we feel that these are the ones that would be more appropriate for the pre-hospital setting, just because they're not bulky. They seem to be very fitting for all our providers. So this is one of the I guess devices that we're exploring.
So we currently have one set of HoloLenses, but they're the original generation. It's not open architecture. there's not a lot that can be done with it. However, it was enough to begin initial trials to see what the possibilities were. So I'll talk about our partnerships in a minute and who's actually doing this programming. But what we quickly learned is that the original generation of the HoloLens was just going to be too limiting. But at the same time, we were able to take a full-size human patient simulator, his name is Hal, and start using these augmented reality goggles to do unique things. One of the things, for example, is you could look at the patient with these augmented reality glasses on, and it could measure his height, it could measure his girth, it could determine weight, of course, all with certain programming. That was about all we could really program in it with its limited architecture. The HoloLens 2, however, uses the very popular gaming engines that you see here, Unity and whatnot. And with that, you can create anything. It's much more robust, much more user-friendly in terms of the interface, but obviously requires a great deal of programming and understanding on that level. So with these glasses, you can kind of see, just in this picture here, how you could look out into the field. Was it the back one? All right, sorry about that. Skip the slide. So you can see here how when the glasses are on, you have the augmented reality in front of you. You're able to select things and interact with this new world that's in front of you. But at the same time, you could see the actual world. So if I had a patient in front of me and I had this glasses on, I'd be able to see the checklist, be able to select different things on the checklist, or interact with the checklist in a different way. So this is the newer version of the technology that we began to explore.
So some of the things that we hope to accomplish with the glasses is to be able to display the RSI checklist or the intubation checklist in a way that can be interactive. We want to be able to scan the patient and be able to determine the patient's, measure the patient's height, which will also be able to measure the patient's weight. And this is important just because of some of the medications that we give are weight-based, and they often use the patient's standard weight, and we also use the patient's ideal body weight, which can be very hard to estimate or calculate in an emergency situation. We're hoping to also, because we have the actual weight of the patient, to be able to calculate medication doses and also determine the size of the intubation breathing tube and the depth of the tube. This is actually something that is very challenging currently now, just because everybody's height, everybody is different. So often there's some minor errors in the measurement of the size of the tube and how deep do we put it in. So the other part of the glasses and the technology we'll be able to create is to be able to calculate ventilator settings, which are also based on the patient's ideal body weight. The system will also have an AI assistant component, and the whole point of this is to minimize or completely prevent errors in medications, calculations, the size of the equipment, and also with, depending on the situation, it would also have telehealth capabilities to be able to communicate with our medical director or medical control, who is an emergency physician, to be on the line while we're providing the care.
So it gets a little bit more in depth. You know, as we continue on, we're kind of envisioning this very similar to, as Iron Man's suit was. The goal here is that in addition to these basic things, we're able to, with the telehealth and pushing everything forward, we could do other things. So for example, we'll be able to take the driver's license, look at the driver's license through the goggles, gather all that pedigree information, push that information forward to the hospital registration system. So by the time the patient arrives at the hospital, they'll already be pre-registered. Now that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is a really big deal in the hospital in terms of getting rapid health care and other things, moving. So there's a lot of other devices that this, overall system will be able to provide. It also has a Poka-yoke built-in system where, the error prevention and the machine learning capability of the AI is really being explored. Again, a tremendous amount of work goes into trying to make these individual components function, trying to make them function together. For example, we're also trying to determine if we can have the goggles, when you look at a patient's injuries, let's say, for example, for burns, to give a very accurate estimate of burn percentage, something that's very difficult to do. So there's a whole bunch of things that we're trying to incorporate here, but at the end of the day, it's no longer just a simple checklist. It is quite literally so very similar to Jarvis. The idea here is that anything you need, you can speak to the glasses, it will respond to your voice. You could reach out into the AR world and touch whatever you need, and it will activate things. So there's going to be a complete sensory interface where, whether it's by glance, sound, or any other means, you could interface with this assistant, and it will interface with you to give real, meaningful, information and data. It'll also display for you in front of you all the different things that you need. So, for example, if I'm saying, okay, I'm going to administer succinylcholine, which is a paralytic, it'll go in, give me the dose for succinylcholine. It'll take that dose information, push it forward to my charting, so I don't even have to, remember what time I gave it. It'll time and date stamp everything that we do. So there's many, many components that we're trying to build into this. The targeting ability is we'll be able to kind of have a rough overview where you can see through the chest and see different anatomy to help with the placement of the intubation tubes. All of these things, when you add them together, should give a very seamless process. It should really help to improve, all of our responses to the stimuli that we receive. The THEA system in itself is complex, but the user interface is very, very simple, and that's by design. So all these complex things that are going on in the background are things that we don't have to think about. I don't have to do mental math. I don't have to do all of this other work because the glasses are, not only providing it, but they're displaying it, and they'll also recognize what we're doing and help prevent mistakes. One of the great things about this project, it started originally, here in Mallet, rapidly expanded to including not only paramedics, but also physicians here at Stony Brook, of which there are several. In addition to that, we have the police department here at Stony Brook involved for a whole nother reason. But beyond that, we have the Center of Excellence for Wireless Technology and Information Technologies. So CWIT is our main partner and is the main developer of all the, all of this really in-depth programming. Certainly something beyond, the level that Eder and I have to do. But this, it's a multi-departmental project, and now it's even, multi-university, because we have on board also the University of New Mexico School of Medicine and some of their physicians involved. So it's really becoming a very robust project that we have a lot of good expectations for. Basically, we're at the stage now where we have like the wire board. We have everything laid out. We have the testing of the first generation HoloLens device completed. We've learned some of the capabilities and limitations. We're in the process now of various grant funding proposals. But really more than that, we're looking for enterprise partners. Excuse me. So one of the enterprise partners that we're talking to is Verizon. And part of that is that this whole system is going to operate on a 5G network. The reason for that is obviously there's a lot of data transmission. For example, the telehealth, the physician is able to see the patient in front of us, and we're pushing that information forward to their viewing terminal wherever they may be. So there's a tremendous amount of data, but the data also needs to be secure, which the 5G network will allow for. So Verizon, one of the things that we were talking about with them is that they were going to outfit our fleet of ambulances with 5G network capabilities, as well as invest in the project itself to try and see where it can go. Clearly, this is all really preliminary. There's a tremendous amount more work to do. This is a multi-year project, but at least we're starting and we're getting moving, and hopefully we'll get some funding and make something happen. But I think that's all we have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, certainly thank you, gentlemen. And I think for all of us, we're all working in different facets of education, communication, towards the greater good, hopefully. And I think we can all see how much is coming together in the type of work you're doing and the leadership you're bringing into it. We need people with vision, and a little plug for the Mallet program. That's our perspective. We really want the people to see beyond the immediate. And these two gentlemen are really looking at some amazing work and how partnerships can help and how no one of us can do all of this. And we certainly are finding with cybersecurity right now in America how important that is. So this is truly amazing, but I will let the group, if anybody has specific questions, but we certainly want to hear how this continues to emerge.
I've got quick things. It's Sidearm. First of all, Rudy, it's good to see you again. You may or may not remember several months ago you were doing a display here on Marion, and Eileen had aimed me to go look at what you had on display, and you were sharing the Holovision project. So it's amazing to see how far it's come. The main thing that's on my mind is I'm seeing connections with some other stuff, and you guys, being in a master's program, already know about this. I'm just going to share them real quick. You said you're looking for an enterprise partner. Of all things, I just got pinged by Verizon today. I just pasted a link there to go to a webinar on May 20th about Verizon Work Imagined, a showcase of tech. Now, you may already have a contact at Verizon, but I totally agree with you guys going after not just one, but multiple enterprise partners. For example, I have another case study that I shared at my presentation here a couple months ago, where Vario, who make the high-end mixed reality headsets, did a project for virtual loops eyeglasses. So definitely, if you can, get. I don't know if HoloLens makers are going to partner with you too, but I'd certainly send you some links to show how Vario and other major equipment brands are showcasing research projects like this that feature university level and hospital level collaborative work, which helps you guys. That's my second point. Verizon, number two, go after the equipment makers. And the third thing, I'm just curious as all heck if you're familiar with the work of the Acaticus medical simulation platform, which is not augmented reality like you guys are doing, but it is, they have a heck of a lot of studies. They're also sponsoring and featuring and showcasing research. The one that caught my mind was, of all things, pediatric intubation training, PR versus a regular, traditional training. And I'll paste the link to that study here. But Acaticus has a lot of public-facing research going on because ka-ching, full disclosure, they're selling a medical simulation platform that works only with Quest. It's not doing augmented reality like. Anyway, great work. Keep it up. Thanks. Over.
And I think
Yes,
we are going
absolutely.
to be losing a few of our folks coming in from Potsdam, but I'm sorry. So continue going if you can stay.
Sidearm, I do remember the conversation, and it was greatly appreciated then as now. So certainly we look for any and all possibilities to get funding. So send it all up and we'll explore them all.
It's in chat. I pasted all the links in chat, Rudy. Just copy it for later.
Thank you.
Text chat, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to save that too so that I can push that out later. Okay. Any other?
This is Robin as well.
Yeah.
I put a grant possibility in the chat to look into. Fascinating work. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Well, and I thank our presenters. I thank the audience, and I know we're running out of time, but I think as we all, when we all see the medical urgencies, and so I think each one of us can contribute one way or another towards this pipeline that can help us all. And thank you very much. I've been taping this. I will have this tape as part of what we keep as a repository here. And if anybody wants to, I have some of your main people on the distribution list, but if anybody wants to get put on as well, I think that class had to finish up. They were finishing back up in their Zoom session, so they had to leave, but I will see if any of them want to get put on the distribution list. So thank you all. Have a very good night, and I appreciate your coming. And I appreciate the presentations. Good night, everybody.